All right, if you're trying to wrap your head around how we got to this point where building a concentration camp in Florida is normal, I invite you to listen to me blab about the evolution of American slavery. White supremacy is not something that's ever gone away, it just kind of morphs over time. Now, this story starts in the mid 1400s when Portugal was bribing and arming African tribes to sell them their captives. They didn't really bat an eye at European slavery because, number one, relatively, they didn't need that many slaves, and number two, they paid handsomely. It wasn't an issue until Britain stepped on the scene. By the 1500s, Europe's thirst for slave labor was unquenchable. So they went from purchasing slaves to just straight up deboning them. They would go and raid villages, they would kidnap Africans, and then traffic them out to the West. Now, because colonial slaves were seen as less than human, the laws surrounding them resembled that of livestock. Whatever they did to cattle, they would do to black folks. They had these laws like partus sequitur venturum, which essentially passed down the slave status of a mother to a child. During this time, the colonists pretty much built their entire existence around slavery. They made trillions of dollars off of it, which kind of strained our relationship with Britain. A lot of people don't know this, but the American Revolutionary War largely started because Britain wanted to end slavery. In the late 1700s, because Britain had taken on this abolitionist mindset, American slavery got uniquely barbaric. It went on to create laws for things like forced breeding and body mutilation. You name it, we did it. We would separate families to instill fear and further dehumanize black folks. The dynamic was unquestionable. Black people were property. Now, when the colonizers got comfortable on this stolen land, the North began to separate its economy from slavery. It wasn't that they were any morally better than the South, it was just what made sense at the time. Now, this ideological divide went on to breed the Civil War, which many people think marked the end of slavery, but it was more of just a rebrand. The 13th Amendment, which came around in 1865, did prohibit slavery, but it left this little clause in there that said if you commit a crime, it was a reasonable punishment. And white supremacy is sneaky sometimes. They got creative. They made things like the black codes and convict leasing, where essentially they'd convict black folks of all these crazy crimes and then rent them out to railroads and farms and whatnot. And sometimes the conditions were worse than when slavery was just overt. And for the next 100 years, we continued to evolve the way we exploited black labor for free legally, with things like sharecropping, then led to lynching and Jim Crow and segregation and voter suppression and whatnot. All these different tactics were legally created to keep black people in the slavery or prison system and away from creating social or economic equality. Now, this includes intentionally injecting crack cocaine into black communities, which created the war on drugs, which disproportionately affected millions of black people and also roped in brown communities. We created an arm to our slave trade that no other country has. After 9/11, we created ICE and DHS, and for the next 2 decades used them to justify the mass incarceration of brown immigrants. We used unrealistic and unfair immigration law to build deportation and detention camps. Now, these camps, just like our prison system, generate billions of dollars. Now, after 20 years of conditioning and desensitizing the American people, Florida unveils Alligator Alcatraz. And because for the last 20 years, 2 decades, they have spent so